Ironically, the subject of this podcast episode, it's never been easier to go off on your own and sell what you know. Right. Sell your expertise, sell your knowledge, because as we transition more into this gig worker economy, you know, for all of you thinking about going off on your own and starting your own consulting firms or selling your expertise, there's going to be more and more of us. It's just never been easier to do it. And more of the services now are going to be designed to alleviating small business from having to employ and all the burden of employment, not just from a management and team development perspective, but just from the cost, the HR, the payroll taxes, just all there is an enormous cost that comes with employment. And the higher the expertise, the bigger the cost, the higher the turnover.
What I also learned is that you can't come from corporate and try to put in the same type of procedures and thought process into, you know, a salon business, right? So that was another learning curve for me of like, yes, I can incentivize these ladies. I can teach them how to upsell, but at the end of the day, they have to they're making a living, like they're surviving, right? They're not they're surviving. Right. So I had to make the environment as welcoming as possible, but also plan for when somebody didn't want to show up the next day.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was the same thing in the pest control business. The same thing in like blue collar working environment versus white collar. Very different.
Ed Milet just did a really interesting podcast that really talked about how the future is selling your expertise. Like that is where entrepreneurs are headed, is like that's the business, is that people are buying, and it has the lowest overhead. It has the lowest cost associated with, where you can literally just use what you know and teach, creating digital products, whatever it is, and saying that within the next, and I don't remember the time frame, more than 50% of people will be entrepreneurs, which I think is really fascinating. So it'll be interesting to see, I mean, even who listens to this, how many of those people start to make that leap.
Well, and just whoever's listening to this, like, we hear you, we see you, we're having these conversations with you, and a lot of you are wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I thinking clearly? Is this too risky? But the funny thing is that everyone's thinking this right now. This is what makes employment very hard right now, because a corporation, a big company, is not competing with another corporation or big company. They're competing with the freedom of being your own boss. And I don't know how they're going to compete. That's hard. Right. And it's not for everyone, entrepreneurship. Like, it definitely comes with its fair share of challenges. But I think the trend is moving in that direction for a reason.
I started looking at all these things. I'm like, okay, how do I want my life to actually go? So last year, after practicing for about 11 years or so, I decided to start my own firm. But I didn't just, wake up one day and say, okay, today's the day. I put a lot of foundation in. So I spent probably 2 years, at least 2 years, really understanding my money, like what am I investing? What do I have? What is my debt? Like, getting really, really intimate with my money and understanding how it all worked, rather than just blindly paying things off and not knowing what I was saving and investing.
Did you work with someone for that? Did you have a financial advisor or someone that you could?
No, I just started reading tons of books on personal finance. And I'm so glad I started there, because it's really not that complicated, especially in the beginning. It really isn't. It's pay yourself first, know where your money is, things like that, where you don't really need an advisor. If you personally, you won't do it unless you have an advisor, yeah, I would recommend that. But I just started reading books.
Is there one you would recommend?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, the Millionaire Next Door series is really good, because it shows you don't have to be in a high earning profession to be a millionaire. And in fact, many people who are in high earning professions are just high spenders and have no wealth,
no liquid cash.
No liquid cash. And so that's a great book series. Your Money or Your Life. I forget the author, Vicky something. I can send a list and we can put it in the show notes, because I just would read so many every single day. I would listen to podcasts about it. I started listening to podcasts on real estate investing, and I started investing as well, because I'm a trust and estates attorney. I was working with billionaires and multi-millionaires, and I noticed everyone had real estate, everyone owned a business, and everyone had significant investment investments. No one was an employee, like not one. They were an employee maybe of their own company or their family's company, but not one, except for maybe like a handful, was an actual employee of another company. Right. And so I started putting all these pieces together. I also got a therapist. It was right around the time when I wanted to have children. And I was like, I got to heal some stuff before I start having kids. And I want to eventually take this leap. And so I wanted to work on both of those things with my therapist, who I'm still with today.
I think that's the smartest thing ever. Like, where the heck were you to tell me that? I'm sorry to interrupt her thing, but like, I'm so sorry. That should be part of it. No one has ever in business said, get a therapist, because you need someone to vent to.
No, and not only that, but when you're leaving corporate, like I didn't realize the layers and layers and layers of trauma that I was carrying.
Yeah, you don't even know.
That I didn't know. Like there were times in my salon that like I would have turnover and I would have this anxiety and I didn't know how to handle it, right? And then when I left corporate, I thought there were certain things I would never have to deal with again. But when it would reappear, it would trigger me. So I had to get a therapist.
And I think it's really important that what you're talking about, because it's not separate. Your work, your business, your personal, it's just not separate. Like we're not, robots. You don't turn it on and off. So whatever's going on in your work life, you're carrying home. Whatever's going on at home, you're carrying back. So addressing one part and not both is really, it's like an exercise in futility. Like you're really not going to get any motion forward. You're just going to stay stuck in one side or the other.
I agree.
I'm a big fan of therapy. Mine, him and I are besties. Should come as no surprise.
I love that you said that, but I love what you chose to focus on in therapy. I think focusing on the who the heck am I to start a business? Who the heck am I to start a media platform? Like who the heck are any of us?
Who am I to start a media platform?
Who the heck are any of us? And then just, your motivators and your triggers, like really having this keen self-awareness to so that you can prepare when it happens. It's not like you go to therapy because then it's never going to happen. It's so that you can manage it effectively when it does, because it absolutely has been for me, and I'm sure you guys can all say this, but an emotional roller coaster. Like no 2 days are the same, no 2 weeks are the same, no 2 years are the same. And the highs are really high and the lows are really scary because it's all on you.
It's really hard for me to ask for help. And when I joined the Daily Drip and Romi made like all these wonderful introductions, like no one had ever done that for me, ever in my entire career. So I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Like, do I just send her money? Like what, like literally, like I like my internal struggle didn't know what to do in that moment. I'd never had anyone do that for me in my whole career.
That is the cutest thing ever.
I really have goosies.
Like I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I'm just gonna hug her and just like try to make cool introductions back. Like I don't know.
You're so funny, and that's really all it is. It's an infinite game. As someone who we have worked with, I'm going to shout out Matt Sabrick on the episode, but he has worked with us and helped us navigate some unclear strategy in our business, and he always would say it's an infinite game. Like it never ends. It's always evolving, and the gives come back, and then you give again, and it just round and round we go. And but okay, Robin, you have a totally different story now. So you've got to share, because you actually were in corporate, grew a whole department from the ground up, only to turn around and buy it from them.
It's like, it's funny because they talk about it as intrapreneurship, where you kind of have ownership within an organization, and then you took it a whole other step. And made it a business.
Like back up the train, because I did have the opportunity, and so that's great. I had already run restaurants, and I don't think people even know that still exist. And so like for people to be like, okay, so she's already been an entrepreneur. I also ran a construction company. So like there's that. I was doing the house flipping, but construction was like what I loved. I loved food and flipping homes. And so to me, I had those two separate businesses. And I think there's people who don't know it unless they know, like, they like go back on my Facebook and they're like, I'm sorry, did you have a 12-year reminder that you had a construction shirt on? It has your last name. And I'm like, yeah, I flipped homes for a really long time. I had a ton of Section 8 homes too. And so people don't know that side. and if you do follow me on Instagram, you'll see where I put like change out my faucet or my electric. Like everybody's like, wait, how do you have these plumbing skills? And I'm like, oh wait, you guys didn't know? So I had already been in the entrepreneur world. I had known how hard it was, especially in the restaurant industry, in service, food cost. You're talking about just influx of, we lived in a highly college age area, and so just employees would come and go, and then summer it was like you're constantly on the hamster wheel. And so when I got off that hamster wheel, I went back to corporate, and I was doing the hustle in New York. And I was like, okay, this is safe. What do you mean I don't have to like fire people? I don't have to hire people. I don't have to worry about their 401ks. I don't have to worry about, someone sticking their hand in a Hobart mixer, and the insurance that I didn't know that was going to happen when he ripped off his fingers. And that's so graphic, but like, that's not something that like you go to business school and they're like, hey, so when someone rips their hand off, you're like, okay, yeah, here's what you do next. Get a lawyer. There's insurance and all of these things were happening. We had gotten broken into. Like, there was so many things that I didn't know about. And I was like, so I went to corporate. Then I was able to be placed down here. And so I met my old CEO, and we built something from, he did, and I was part of it, but they brought on what they called the island, which was marketing. And they brought the island, and it was a tech company, and was able to grow that over 5 years. And I told everyone, this is my forever home. I'm going nowhere. So when the opportunity came to buy it and switch it over to me, that's when I had to like have a come to Jesus moment with myself and be like, okay, you're about to step back into it. You know all the things. Unfortunately, I didn't know all the things, even though I had done it once before. Getting something from the ground up, you said, okay, I have to make sure I get paid. I had to all of a sudden leverage money that I didn't know I needed. And I think that's something that for some people who are going into it, you can lose your shirt. When you're cutting payroll and it's tens of thousands of dollars every 2 weeks, and you have insurance, you have Florida Blue on there, you have people's, dental vision, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're running systems and tech and computers that you're like, I remember I got a call and this girl told me her brand new Apple computer she dropped in the pool. We're 2 weeks in. Remember, these are all like my home is on the line. Like I took money out of my home to pay for this. And I was like, oh, you casually just dropped in the pool? Awesome. And talk about like you want to have a Botox face. You're like, am I making an emotion right now? Like, oh my gosh, I was bleeding money. And I remember just no one understood that. We came from another company. They thought, oh, well, they just automatically assumed the finances were there, business as usual. They didn't understand that all the costs just came to me with no funding, no private equity, no small business loan. The SBA did not come to me and say, sure. They were like, nope, you're not qualified. I'm like, I'm sorry, do you want to like review that? Or loans from the bank didn't come out. And I don't think people understood that the only thing I had to do was for the past 15 years before, all the homes that we had, able to now put that on the line and say, okay, everything I was about to work for, everything I've ever flipped, every week I didn't go with food was about to just go into this. And that, I will tell you, was not a wake-up call I was ready for.
That's a level of commitment in entrepreneurship that I think sets apart those that succeed ultimately in entrepreneurship and the ones that can't sustain it. And I say that as someone that's like literally living now in parallel with my husband, who at the same time decided we'll do the same thing. We'll just, we'll both just start businesses within, 2 years and still put our kids through college. But you need to have so much faith and conviction in what you're doing that with all that going on and feeling like the house is on fire and I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, it's like that fear and all of that you're working through is outweighed by the faith and sheer like determination that there's nothing, like failure's not an option. Yeah. Meaning ultimately, like there'll be hiccups, but this is happening one way or another. And I think that sets apart entrepreneurs that last and sustain themselves over time.